Hello and welcome to STEM Sunshine. My name is Mr. McKenzie and I'll be your teacher for the day. The topic we are going to discuss today is the kinetic theory of matter. This topic is especially geared towards students who are studying BGCSE Chemistry or Combined Science and are preparing for those examinations. Firstly, let's take a look at the word kinetic. The word kinetic simply means moving or motion. Whenever you think of the word kinetic, think about a ball rolling down a hill, or water coming out of a faucet, or a car driving along the road. Secondly, let's define the term matter. Matter is anything that takes up space and has mass. The computer I'm on, the microphone I'm talking in, the air we breathe are all examples of matter. There are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Can you think of a substance that can exist in all three states of matter? Water can exist in all three states of matter. Finally, all matter is made up of particles or atoms or molecules. If we study this diagram, we can see the three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas, and we can see that all three states of matter are made up of particles in a solid, particles in a liquid, and particles in a gas. In a solid, the particles are tightly packed together and can only vibrate in fixed positions. This is because the force of attraction holding the particles together in a solid are very strong. In a liquid, the particles are loosely packed together. You can clearly see spaces in between the liquid molecules. In a liquid, the particles have more motion and can flow. However, they still have forces holding them together. The forces that are holding a liquid particles together are not as strong as the forces that holds the particles together in a solid. In a gas, the molecules are far away from each other. The forces of attraction that holds together the particles in a solid and a liquid don't exist in a gas. The particles of a gas are also moving rapidly. If this was a container, the particles in the gas will be hitting the walls of this container, creating pressure. Therefore, we can say that the kinetic theory of matter states that all matter is made up of particles and that these particles are constantly moving or in motion. The amount of motion or movement these particles have depends on the amount of kinetic energy they have. And the amount of kinetic energy these particles have depends on two factors: on temperature, how hot or cold a substance is, and pressure, how much force is applied to an object. In a solid, the particles only vibrate, so they only have a very small amount of kinetic energy. In a liquid, the particles are allowed to flow, so they have more kinetic energy. In a gas, the particles are moving rapidly and they are hitting the walls of their container, creating pressure, so a gas will have the most kinetic energy. How do we prove that matter is really made up of particles? To prove this, we have to do an experiment involving a container of water and potassium permanganate crystals. The formula for potassium permanganate is KMnO4. So we're going to add KMnO4 to this container of water. And as you can see, the potassium permanganate crystals are purple. And when we put it in the container of water, the potassium permanganate purple color starts to spread out in this container. So the particles of potassium permanganate is moving in this container of water. If we were to continue to watch this experiment, eventually this whole container of water will be purple, and it will be a one uniform purple color. We call the spreading or the movement of these potassium permanganate particles in this container of water diffusion. And we can define diffusion as the movement of particles from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration until they are evenly distributed. Let's take a look at the properties of the various states of matter. Remember, matter can exist in three states: solid, liquid, and gas. The first property we're going to study is shape. All solids will have a fixed or definite shape. A liquid, on the other hand, will take the shape of its container. So a liquid will have an indefinite shape. Likewise, a gas will have an indefinite shape. If you want to give a gas a shape, you have to place it in a container. Second property is volume. All solids have a fixed volume. Liquids also have a fixed volume, which you can measure using a measuring cylinder. If you want to give a gas a volume, you must place it in a container. And if you place a gas in a container, it will take the volume of that container. So we say a gas has an indefinite volume. The last term we want to take a look at is compressibility. Compressibility is the term used to describe putting matter into a smaller space. Solids are non-compressible. If you compress a solid, it's going to crumble. Liquids are also non-compressible. Now, for a gas, you can take a big volume of gas and compress it into a very small space. Let's study this diagram. In this diagram, we can see a solid changing into a liquid changing into a gas changing into a solid, or a solid changing into a gas. This is a phase change diagram. We can take a solid and change it into liquid by the process called melting. And then we could take a liquid and change it into a gas by the process called boiling or evaporation. We can take a gas and change it directly into a solid by the process called deposition or sublimation. Sublimation will be the same thing as deposition right here. Or we can take a solid and we can turn it directly into a gas by the process of sublimation. To get matter to change state, we have to add or remove heat. If we add heat, this process to take a solid to a liquid is called melting. If we add more heat to the liquid, we're going to do evaporation or boiling to get a gas. If we remove heat from a gas, that's going to be called condensation to get a liquid. And then if we take a liquid and put it in our freezer, we're going to get a solid. Can you think of some substance that sublimates in heating, turning directly from a solid to a gas or from a gas to a solid by the process of sublimation? Dry ice, which is solid carbon dioxide, sublimates on heating. Also, iodine crystals also sublimates on heating. Therefore, in summary, we can say that all matter is made up of particles and that these particles are constantly moving. We also know that the amount of kinetic energy these particles have depends on temperature and pressure. To prove the kinetic theory is a phenomenon called diffusion, which is the movement of particles from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration until an equilibrium is reached or until the particles are evenly distributed. And lastly, we know that matter can change state based on adding or removing heat. We would love to hear from you. Please email us at stemsunshine242@gmail.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave positive comments, positive feedback. Please stay tuned for the reference page. Thank you once again for watching.